What is up, you guys? This is Lucas with GamesRadar.com, and I am here with
Jeremy Gaffney. I'm executive producer for Carbine, working on Wildstar.
So yeah, we are checking out Wildstar, the very colorful, very forward-thinking MMO. So, Jeremy, what is Wildstar?
So Wildstar is the #1 game on the planet. Oh wait, no, I was fast-forwarding to maybe a year or two from now. What this is basically it's our MMO where we really care deeply about giving you good leveling experience, having a lot of fun, having a lot of variety, and then having elder games that do not suck, where you have fun stuff to do once you're at top level.
Right on. So today you guys are actually showing the Scientist and Cellular paths for the first time. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Absolutely. The Scientist and the Cellular, here's what paths are in a nutshell, which is a good place for our game, is to be inside of a nutshell. If you're a scientist, you're all about studying stuff. You see interesting things going on in the world, and you're like, hey, what's that? And you have a little scan bot that'll come out and find out more about it for you. And your scan bot's cool. You can name it, over time you can unlock new powers and stuff for it. But the short form is you use it to go find stuff out when you see something that's cool. In this case, we're like near an Elden lock. The Elden is this race that they disappeared off the planet, and they left all this crazy magic and technology behind. And as a scientist, you're motivated by this story to go in there and find out what the hell happened to these guys. Where did they go? What made them disappear? Where are they now? What might have attacked them? Is that thing still around? Are we in trouble? The answers to all these questions are answered by the scientist. And a spoiler alert, the answer to the last question is yes, we're in trouble.
Very cool. So it sounds like the Scientist is the perfect path for people that really like lore and backstory.
Heck yes. Each of the paths is about one kind of normal sort of play style. You're digging into the lore and the backstory here, or you're a collector. If you got to do every achievement, you are probably a scientist. And you'll just see neat stuff. And so, hey, what's that plant over there? You send your bot over, it finds it out, and often it's something like either a new power can erupt, a new creature. You might just find more backstory about it. Your little bot can be attacked as well, and so you can also, piss things off with it, and it helps you slightly in combat by maybe distracting monsters and stuff.
Very cool. So, most MMOs would not have a giant monster erupt out of the ground when you're checking out a vine. So, how do you design that?
Well, the way that you do it is basically we believe in embedding little bits of content everywhere. And about 30% of the content is about your path. If you're a settler, it's about socializing, or it's about building things in the game. If you're a scientist, it's about lore or collection or story. If you're an explorer, it's about finding hidden vistas and things like that. Or underground cavern systems where you can travel around twice as fast as everyone else. So it's both the content you get, and then it's also the rewards you get for it, so that you earn things that make you better at the kind of stuff you like doing.
Very cool. And down goes that vine beast. So now we're going to check out one of those doors that you're talking about.
So this is a mission we're getting led to, and it turns out that this is content which only the scientists can unlock. And if you're of another path, you can go do it if you see your buddy doing it, or if you go over there and venture with them. You get your path XP for helping your friends do their paths as well. In this particular case, you have a series of little machines to scan, and there's a puzzle involved. Now, there's a trick to this, which is that we're a sort of believer in no BS demos, and so we're just running through closed beta content right now, as opposed to hey, pre-canned whatever. So Mike is our demo driver. Mike Geldard, take a bow. Oh, you weren't on camera, it didn't matter. Mike is actually going to go here, and he's going to try to solve this scientist puzzle in real time. By having scanned the basic things, now he's unlocked it. Other players could come by now and help him out. And so now as he looks at the lock, there's 4 elements involved in this lock. We're teaching you some of the backstory about the Elden and how they use these elements. And you'll see little thingies appear overhead where he's trying to solve the little puzzle of fire and water and power, trying to get all 4 of these things to kind of show up at the same time, which will unlock the door. And because we're doing this live, because we like playing without a net, if Mike can't solve it, he's going to cheat and fly through the door.
Makes sense. We don't want too much pressure here.
Yeah, no pressure at all, Mike. Good luck. The clock's ticking.
So you were saying earlier that these puzzles are actually randomly generated. You can't just go online and find the solution right away.
Yeah, that's the goal. And maybe through the magic of movie editing, we'll solve it for Mike. But beyond that, we don't want the main way of playing the game shouldn't be go on the web and find out how someone else played the game. We think a good design is represented when someone has to write a strategy guide for it, and this is kind of cluing you in as the right kinds of things you ought to be doing. That's a sign of a good design. A bad design means you go online, you find an exact list of do this synchronized dance step, and then everything works. Mikey, buddy, I think we're cheating through the door, man.
Cool. So we finally broke in. What are we seeing here?
So, after Michael cleverly solved the puzzle, we basically are now found that there's some guardians inside this cave, and you can see that little scientist stuff symbol around. That means there's other stuff to discover in here for the scientists. And what we do is we give you both puzzles to solve, we give you content just for you, and also you get better rewards for doing the content everyone does. There's a data cube in here that's chock full of lore about the Elden. As a scientist, you get extra path XP every time you read a data cube. So everyone can kind of try and do it, but you get extra benefits for having done it as a scientist.
Very cool. So can you talk a little bit about the path XP, how that works, why that encourages grouping?
Sure. So Path XP is about getting better at the kind of thing that you want to do. As Mike unlocks this chunk of lore, he's also gained a bunch of Path XP, and as your path level raises up like it was your normal character level. And it gives you cool stuff. It gives you rewards. It gives you new powers. It gives you fab kits to be able to plant new stuff at your house or dig up the land around your house that's based on what your path is all about. And these tend to be themed to your path. Explorers are getting jet boots, and the scientists are able to unlock things, more backstory about the creatures by unlocking things in the Galactic Archive. So we try to make both the rewards and the missions all be about doing the kind of things that you sort of enjoy doing. Because it's not about, your class is about how you fight. Your path is about how do you as a player play games.
Very cool. So with that, let's go check out the Cellular path.
And so the Cellular is all about building up areas. And so Mike is cheating right now, and because he's a cheating cheater who likes to cheat.
That devil.
Exactly. That's why we're flying around as well, is to make sure, we have about 220 hours of content in the game right now, and we're going to show as much of it as we can cram into this recording as possible. And so he's flying around at sort of like epic mount speed to cruise around and go see stuff. But this is all just real content. We're just walking through closed beta content right here. And this means, big things like giant robots. They blast the chunks of the terrain out of the ground with their little eye beams and all that sort of cool stuff. The Settlers are about building up the quest hubs especially, and so the fighting around this guy, by the way, is very interesting because trying to first as a noob you come in there and you're trying to dodge his eye beams, then as an expert player you're trying to lure monsters in the areas where he's going to blast next, so it's like you sort of get to go through a little progression as you sort of learn how to use the content to your advantage. It's
Clever.
Now it's like a horror movie thing, it's like, you find out the monster's weakness and then you use it against him. So if you're a settler, you get to build up quest hubs. You get to do a ton of stuff too, but for a short term, we'll sort of give that. What this means is you can add new buildings, you can add new structures, new vendors, new quests, new taxi nodes onto the taxi network, all sorts of cool stuff. In this particular case, we're building up it's like a jail. It usually takes a number of settlers to kind of work on this. The jail's chock full of monsters. This helps you out with some of the quests in the area if your settlers have been kind enough to build one for you. There's a guy up top who's a warden, and he's going to give you a buff for talking to him. So like, hey, you're stoked if a settler put together this thing because you're able to get an extra buff in the area. They're able to really just improve the areas that all the players are in. There's little things like, we call them infrastructure. It's like little torches that need lighting, or the, fences that need repairing. You're usually collecting reputation. You're collecting, the materials you need to do the big stuff. You don't have to do the little stuff if you want, but it turns out the play style really is just, you feel this need to improve the area because that's kind of what the play style is. You're of that mentality usually if you're playing one of these guys.
Very cool. Very altruistic. So you were saying earlier that the Cellular kind of presents a puzzle where there's no one best place to build something, because if everyone starts building there, then only one person is getting XP. So how do you work around that?
Well, this is kind of a subtlety of the social gameplay. So one of the things that you can do is you can build up the area. Mike's building bank vaults out here and post office. He's built a new little taxi vendor here who's going to give him a speeder bike to be able to move through the area. And this is cool and all because it's, you're doing these sort of things, and the more people use these things, the more benefits you get. You get social XP, you get settler XP for doing things that other players like to actually use. And so because of this, it means that you really are trying to find out the best way to help as many people as you can. And this is cool for the stuff that's pre-placed, where it's like, oh, hey, here's all the things you can unlock in a given town. But it's even better when it's sort of free-form. Here's a little outpost. It's near dangerous content. You choose to do this up, and while you're fighting in the area, you can make guards and things like that that'll help you fight in the area. So it's not all town, some of it's outposty, and some of it is pure free placement. For instance, you can place a campfire, and the more people who use that campfire, the more buffs you get. Michael will actually go make one.
And all these are actually in the world. They're not phasing, correct?
Yeah, we do very little phasing. We do have phasing technology, but it turns out they kind of suck, you know what I mean? It sort of sucks when you try to do something and you're like, hey, look at that awesome robot I blew up, and everyone else is like, what robot? So we use our technology to kind of change the world, and we often do that in unphased fashion. And you start off with a little itty bitty campfire here, and you use it, and you get some path XP, and the guy who used it gets a buff. So where can you place this campfire that most people want to use it? Well, maybe you build an outpost like this one, and then you put a campfire in there, because now people are going to go do the hard area while your outpost is there. Maybe you put it by a raid. Maybe you pop them down for your raid, knowing those people are going to use it. Maybe you put it in the middle of town. But the trick is that the more people who place in an area, you only need one campfire at a time. And so what this means is that if there's a place that's already chock full, everybody figure out the best place to put it is in town. Well, now that's not as good for you. You want to find in your world, given the dynamic content spawned right now, where can you place this where it has the best benefit? That's a fascinating puzzle, and it's kind of an unsolvable puzzle. There'll never be some answer up on the web saying, here's exactly the place to place it. At best, you can give a strategy guide saying, here's the kinds of places to place it, and we have this weird philosophy.
Very cool. So can we actually check out a dungeon real quick?
Yeah, we can see what we can do about that, I think.
So what actually is the name of this dungeon? What's going on here?
We are in Stormtown's lair, Lobby Dungeon, and even in a Lobby Dungeon, we do some pretty cool stuff. We have interesting bosses. We have we have boss mechanics that require a fair amount of cooperation. Our combat system, it works well when you're a soloer. But really, it comes into its own when you're in a group, because you're not just using your spells to do damage. You're using those telegraphs to communicate on the ground with your group about what's going on. And so you paint down something saying, hey, I'm going to do a big badass spell over here. Oh, I'm going to be healing in this area. Or here, I'm going to play some healing orbs for you. You actually have to do all that stuff in the actual game world. And the telegraphs let you communicate what you're doing in real time without voice chat, without typing in, hey, more dots, stand over there. No, you can just paint on the ground and do it. And you combine this with some pretty interesting mechanics, and all of a sudden, God forbid, you actually get some pretty cool stuff going on, even in the low-level dungeons, never mind the high-level raids.
Very cool. So it seems like telegraphs are really important to just making it easier to play the game well without needing to do tons of strategizing between players.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Some people have look at the telegraph system where the monsters are doing telegraphs on the ground like, oh, well, that's easy mode. You look, there's a big red circle. How hard can it be to dodge the circle? Well, it turns out that at low levels, we're teaching you how to use the systems. And high levels, we start getting pretty crazy with both different positive things to do and negative things to do. And as bosses want to hit their different phases, you start getting a lot of crazy different stuff going on, both from the individual attacks that they're doing, often the telegraphs they're doing, but then also it's the environmental hazards, making sure those are cool too.
Very cool. Yeah, those tornadoes, you probably don't want to step in those.
No, you probably don't. And if you get the boss to a certain state, then it starts getting pretty crazy where they start heading after you as well.
Cool. So that was a quick look at Wildstar from Carbon Studios. If you want to learn more about this game, just go to gamesradar.com and we will see you there.